Ali Madad, friends. Ali Madad, yes.
Ya Ali Madad, everyone. Thank you for being here on Sunday morning. May Hazrat Imam's mercy help us all enjoy the nourishment of knowledge and wisdom. You know, nobody can rush wisdom, but Nur Maulana Shah Karimul Hussaini Hazrat Imam can give it to us within the blink of an eye, inshallah. So today we are going to be looking at Ahsanul Qasas, the beautiful stories of Hazrat Yusuf. Hazar sala ibadat kunand, namazi neist, kasi ke ishq nadarad, khudaye razi neist. If a person does ibadat for thousands of years, it is not necessary that they be called namazi if their heart is not pure. For without love for God, without love for the Imam of the time, God is not happy. Love is what nurtures the intellect. Hazrat Yusuf's story is so important, so beautiful. And why is it that the Holy Quran mentions it from the beginning to the end? Because it is full of wisdom and it is full of amazing realities. So my intention is to look at a special wisdom today. Since we are talking about Hazrat Yusuf, what could this image tell us?
Somebody is throwing Hazrat Yusuf Paigambar in what?
Is it Yusuf and Zulaikha in the palace?
Thank you, both of you. Let's look at how the story unfolds. One of the very special names of intellect is wisdom, and we get this from Surah Baqarah, where God says wisdom is that supreme thing which, if granted to somebody by God, automatically brings abundant good to him. In the language of today, Allama Sahib is using the word spiritual science for wisdom. Nur Maulana Shah Karimul Hussaini Hazrat Imam reminds us by saying, I want to draw your attention to the meaning of Ahlul Kitab, the people of the book, that is, of Allah's revelation to men through his prophets and through the last prophet, Prophet Muhammad. Why is Imam drawing our attention towards this, right? First, because we live in the Western world, we have all different cultures, all different religions, we are all pluralistic, yeah? And then Imam continues to tell us that it is essential, therefore, that my young Jamaat, newly settled in the Western world, should build upon strong foundations. And the strongest foundation you can build upon is your faith, unity, and hard work. Imam is drawing our attention to the meaning of the Al-Kitab, the people of the book, and Allah's revelation to men through his prophets, right? Everything that the Imam of the time does is actually unfolding the wisdoms of what the prophets have told us in Tanzil. Yeah. Imam says we make no compromises, right? And we stay strong in the practice of our faith. Why our faith? Because fundamental ethical principle for us as Ismailis is acceptance of Nurun ala Nur. Okay, so Hazrat Yusuf was born in the family of prophets. He was the son of Hazrat Yaqub, the grandson of Hazrat Ishaq, the great-grandson of Hazrat Ibrahim, peace be upon them all, and through them all, for all humanity. So Hazrat Yusuf was one of the 12 sons of Hazrat Yaqub, once dreamt, which he conveyed to his father. "O father, I did see 11 planets and the sun and the moon. I saw them prostrate themselves to me." Whole story of Hazrat Yusuf from beginning to the end is cited in Surah 12. So here it's important to note that Hazrat Yusuf saw planets, sun and moon prostrate themselves to Hazrat Yusuf. So it's interesting, normally things prostrate to Allah, right? But here planet, sun and moon are all prostrating to Hazrat Yusuf. So this brings up an important point also, that when we talk about shirk, associating partners to God, it actually doesn't mean or doesn't refer to God himself. It refers to the embodied light, which is the Imam of the time. Because God is omnipotent, we all know that God is omnipresent. How can anyone associate partners to God, right? So this is a very beautiful fundamental point, that when humanity or when people talk about associating partners to God, it actually means that they are associating partners to the embodied light. In the time of prophethood, it's prophets, and today in the time of Imamat, Nur Maulana Shakri Mulsini Hazrat Imam. Okay, so we continue with the story of Hazrat Yusuf. He was very beloved to Hazrat Yaqub, and his brothers were really jealous because of that. So one time they decided to kill him. Instead, they threw him in a well. Hazrat Yaqub knew of their mischief. Being the Imam, he forgave them. Okay, so the story then continues on how Hazrat Yusuf was rescued by people traveling in a caravan, who then sold him in a slave market in Egypt. There he was bought by Aziz Misr and raised like a son. Hazrat Yusuf grew up to be not only very handsome, but he was also blessed with exceptional knowledge and wisdom. Hazrat Yusuf was seduced by Zuleika, the king's wife. When Zuleika invited Hazrat Yusuf, he said that he sought refuge in Allah. Women in the city started to mention that how she was seducing Hazrat Yusuf. In some narration, it said that she invited 40 women and gave them all knives and invited Hazrat Yusuf to come to the banquet. When he came, all the women there cut their fingers. So this is all symbolic, because we know a knife is a symbol of Isma Azam. When Isma Azam was given to them, the spiritual attraction, the spiritual wonder, the mysteries and the beauties of the Isma Azam was so sublime, so special, that they cut their fingers. This is a story of spirituality, how they were engrossed, immersed in the spirituality of the Isma Azam that was given to them. Because Zuleika was a powerful queen, she insisted that to keep her name, Hazrat Yusuf be sent to prison. And so Hazrat Yusuf spent many years in prison. And in the Quranic narration, we see that when Hazrat Yusuf mentioned to God why he was in the prison, God said to him that this is a blessing for you. So again, this whole idea of being in prison is actually a story of resurrection, how he had to go through a resurrection in order to actualize his spirituality. In prison, he did miracles, able to interpret dreams. And this miracle is going to be covered by Dr. Rubina. When he was released from the prison, he was given a high important position to work alongside the king. This Quranic ayat 1287 talks about, and do not despair of Allah's mercy. Yesterday we looked at how everything in the universe is immersed in knowledge and mercy, right? Which is universal soul and universal intellect. So here mercy is referring to the universal soul, which is Hazrat Yusuf in the story, okay? Thus it is correct to say that the Imam of the time is God's mercy after Holy. It's important also to know that Hazrat Yusuf was the Imam Mustawda, and therefore Hazrat Zuleika, being the wife of Imam Mustakar, was not taking knowledge directly from Hazrat Yaqub. That was the interaction between Hazrat Zuleika and Hazrat Yusuf. So I'm going to stop here.
Since Hazrat Yusuf story has lot of miracles, and as Yasmin said that these all miracles are spiritual in nature and it has a tawil, so it is very important that if we read this surah with the meaning in our own time, that also will help all of us to understand. I will continue where Yasmin has left. So start Surah Yusuf is the story of Hazrat Yusuf, and it's like very mashhoor zamana story, and it is called Ahsanul Qasas. This surah title is Ahsanul Qasas, means it has very beautiful stories of, or it is a very beautiful and systematic mentioning of Yusuf interaction from childhood till he moved towards the throne. So that's the reason this story is called Ahsanul Qasas. It starts from Alif Lam Ra, like there are these words, and we all understand that these are Hurufe Muqatti'at, and there are explanation of those Hurufe Muqatti'at from Dai, Peas, and even Allama Sahib is also explained. Not going into the details of what Huruf e Muqatti'at are, but at least we say that after Huruf e Muqatti'at, the lesson or the message which Allah gives is also very important. So it starts from this Alif Lam Ra and then Tilka Ayatul Kitabul Mubin, that these verses are open or a perfect book. So this is about the book, and this book, which we yesterday also we discussed that which is this book, and this book is the book of the Imam of the time, Kitab-e-Natiq, which is open, and Mubin is open, Khulla, and who can speak, who can talk. So this is the book who can talk and who can speak. So this is the Kitab-e-Natiq, and it has a lot of ayat or verses. The ayat and verses are basically the miracles. So this book, which is Hazrat Yusuf as a Kitab-e-Natiq, has a lot of miracles in it. And then the second ayat translation, I'll read translation because it will like too long to read Arabic and the translation. So few ayats I have picked from Hazrat, from Surah Yusuf to give few glimpses of the stories which are important for all of us to understand. So the second ayat says that we have revealed it by making it a Quran in the Arabic language so that you may understand it well. So Allah is saying that I have revealed this Quran in Arabic language so that you all understand. Now you may understand, so the Arabic people will definitely understand it, but for all those who are non-Arabic, then what happens to those? So that means that there are two translations that we have revealed. This Quran, which is Quran in the Lohe Mahfuz or guarded tablet, making the Quran in the Arabic language is a full of Nurani words or full of Nurani language, so that those Nurani language you will be able to understand it well. Arabic means the language of Arabia as well as one's own language or one's own mother tongue. So Arabia has two meanings. So the spiritual experiences happens in uh, one's own language, one's own tongue. So if there is conversation between Imam of the time and the person who is going through the spiritual experiences, then that conversation is not in Arabic, not in some other language, not even in English, where we say that Imam's language basically is French or English, but it is the language of Noor, or and then translated into mother tongue. Therefore, the person understand it. And remember, we always hear that Maula Ali has said that I know all the languages of the universe. So what does that mean? That Mullah Ali physically was not actually conversing all the languages of the world, but it is the spiritual language and the spiritual miracles that converts into its own or person own language. So Those who are Ajami or a non-Arabic means the language of others. Um, that language is also very important because spiritual experiences and spiritual conversation happens in person's own language. So that's actually it all belongs to the place of spirituality and of Tawil. And through revelation, this Quran, and in the third ayat, it is saying that through revelation of this Quran, we narrate the best stories or best history or stories. Few translators have said this histories and few have said stories, but the word, the term Quran is saying Ahsanul Qasas. So the best stories in which you may not be aware of, and then after reading this surah, you will be getting yourself aware. Yusuf name in the Quran is 27 times mentioned, and then after 27, 26 is in Surah Yusuf. And it gives very chronologically uh, um, um, like a series of miracles and series of stories in a chronological order, as I said, from childhood till the time where he reaches to his father again, to meet his father again, and then he has achieved at the level of the status of Arsh Wahadat. So Yusuf, as Yasmin explained, that Yusuf was son of Hazrat Yaqub. Hazrat Yusuf was also a Pagambar or a prophet. Hazrat Yaqub was also a Pagambar, and who was the son of Hazrat Ishaq, was also the Pagambar and the son of Hazrat Ibrahim. So Hazrat Ibrahim has two sons. One is Ismail and one is Ishaq. They both we also some point in time said that they both are having prophetic traditions, and Hazrat Ishaq, then Yaqub and Yusuf are in the progeny of Hazrat Ishaq. As Yusuf, it was extremely beautiful, and it is all now said that the beauty relates to Yusuf. That means people said, just give me a minute. Sorry, I'm extremely sorry. There was somebody knocking my door, so I have to answer. Um, this Yusuf is like the symbol of beauty is basically Hazrat Yusuf, and we all know there are symbols attached to each prophet. So the symbol of beauty is attached to Hazrat Yusuf, and this beauty is not only for Hazrat Yusuf but any uh, a prophet or any perfect man who achieved that level uh, to see the beauty of internal beauty and spiritual beauty is also termed as a Hazrat Yusuf's beauty. And so Imam of the time, we can call that this Imam of the time is Yusuf Zaman. So the beauty, that spiritual beauty and intellectual beauty that lies in the Imam of the time is actually the beauty of Hazrat Yusuf. So Yusuf was extremely beautiful, and we heard what happens to Zulekha's friend and why Zulekha was um, like just after Yusuf beauty, because she sees the Yusuf internal beauty and the spiritual beauty. So, and appreciating the beauty, acknowledging the beauty is in nature of all human beings. So we all appreciate and acknowledge beauty, and we earn to have that beauty for ourselves. And there are a lot of things we do to get beautify ourselves physically also, and also to look better physically, but also we have to see the that what else we can do to beautify ourselves internally and spiritually. So, for example, if we see mineral and vegetative kingdom, hello, am I audible?
G asking, sir. Okay, please,
Okay,
I think somebody is unmuted.
okay, okay. So, no issue. So, my voice is clear, right? Please let me know if it is
G,
not clear.
G, yes. G, Dr.
Okay.
Seva. We can hear you very
Okay,
well.
so we were discussing that mineral and vegetable kingdom. We know, we appreciate, we love precious stones. They are very beautiful. We love flowers. They are very beautiful. So this is the natural beauty. And then in the animal kingdom also we see some animals are beautiful, birds are beautiful, and we attracted towards always this. This is the nature of human being, that we attract towards those beauty, even in mineral kingdom, in animal kingdom, and even in rational soul. Human beings, those who are very beautiful, we appreciate. Children who are very beautiful, we appreciate, we acknowledge, and we attract towards them. So consider all those beauty. Then think about the spiritual beauty. That if human nature is such that it attracts towards beauty, a physical beauty, then what about soul? Soul is more powerful than a physical thing. Then definitely our rational soul, and the soul which is spiritual soul, it attracts spiritual beauty. And this is the spiritual beauty of Hazrat Yusuf, is mentioned in Surah Yusuf. And why it is so? Because we all are the mirror of compassionate. We all are the mirror of Surat Rahman. So that Surat Rahman basically is reflecting in our self. So that's the reason Hazrat Yusuf and all the spiritual beings are very beautiful. And therefore, the Imam of the time, which has some sublime and excellent everlasting beauty. Allah is the master of beauty, and He loves beauty. So that is the hadith. Inna Allaha Jamilum Yuhibbul Jamal. So Inna Allaha Jamilum Yuhibbul Jamal, that Allah is beautiful and He loves beauty. So which beauty Allah is mentioning here? It's not physical beauty, but also inner beauty, spiritual beauty, your inner self. So the person who is internally very beautiful, Allah favors that beauty, and that reflects Hazrat Yusuf's beauty. So it is very important that when we talk about beauty or asan, that means it's all about the spirituality and the inner self.
Sapna, always.
So Hazrat Yusuf was a prophet and also Imam. Imam-e Mastawda, as Yasmin said that Yusuf was Imam-e Mastawda, not Imam-e Mustaqat. And God taught him Tawil initially by helping him to complete the journey of the spiritual stages step by step. So he has achieved the spiritual level step by step. And then he was given this rank of Khalifa or vice chairman. There are two Khalifa mentioned in Quran. One is for Hazrat Yusuf and one is for Hazrat Adam. So that Khilafat is given by Allah once he passes the stages of the spirituality in his personal world. So this is story about his personal world more than the other environment, because this personal world stories are important for the spirituality. Otherwise, if Yusuf had this interpretation of dreams and interpretations of Tawil at that point in time, or in those periods, then it will not help us in this period, unless it has something about the personal world, and we can also achieve, or all of us can achieve that beauty and that khilafat while passing through the spiritual stages step by step. So he was given this khilafat by a universal soul in his personal world, and therefore he was able to do tawil. As we said, that who will be able to do tawil? Yesterday we discussed that it is the rasikhuna fil ilm, those who have gone through death before material death. So those are the one who can give tawil, or who can do tawil, and who can explain esoteric meaning of the exoteric things. So, and those are the imam of the time, and some of the soldiers or some of the murids of the imam of the time can also pass through those stages. There are three important dreams mentioned in the Yusuf story. So I'll go through these three dreams, and then that in that way we'll be able to cover most of the story of Hazrat Yusuf alayhi salam along with the Tawil. So one is the Yusuf dream of childhood, one is the dream of inmates in prison when he was in prison, and one is the dream of the king of Egypt. And Yusuf and Yaqub has made the interpretation in this surah only, but it has more Tawili interpretation which is done by Alama Sahib, and I have taken a few of the pointers from few of the books of Allama Sahib. So as this slide is taken by, I have taken this from YouTube, and it was a lecture, I don't know, by Shafiq Virani, and he has mentioned the story of Hazrat Yusuf. So I took this slide, and there are, just to make us understand, that there are 12 son of Hazrat Yaqub, and Yusuf and Banyamin were from one mother, and else Yusuf, Banyamin, and Judah. They all three were the brothers of one mother, and all other are from another wife of Yaqub. So that's the reason, and as Yasmin explained, that Yusuf and Yaqub has a close relationship, because not because of any physical thing, but because of the relationship between the father and the son in terms of imamat. So imamat has to go from Yaqub to Yusuf. So that's the reason there is like a strong love between father and son, and that's where it is said that brothers were jealous about it. So in childhood, and it is mentioned in ayat 4, that when Yusuf told his father that, "Oh my father, I saw 11 stars and the sun and the moon prostrating before me in homage." So when Yaqub listened to his childhood dream, then he advised that not to tell his brother regarding this dream, because according to him, they were already jealous of you, and therefore they might try to harm you. So this is just a physical story, but the 11 brothers actually, they were in the they were also in the rank of some spiritual progress, but the Yusuf was progressing very fast. So in whole of the family, all were progressing spiritually, but Yusuf was progressing very fast, and then therefore he saw this dream that all his brother, 11 brothers, and mother and father were prostrating. That will come later in ayat number 100. So this ayat, this dream interpretation is mentioned in this surah, in ayat number 100, and I have placed it here. Interpretation of the dream, which of about 11 stars, sun, and the moon, is here, that he seated is his parents by his side on the throne, and they fell down before him in homage and said, "Oh my father Yusuf," this is meaning of earlier dream. So all of his brother and the mother and the father, they all were prostrating. So, and that was the interpretation of dream later on when it happened actually. So, and then Yusuf was saying that my Lord has made it come true. Like the childhood dream came true, and He was gracious in getting me out of prison and bringing you out of desert to me after discord created shaitan between me and my brother. So there were some jealousy component, and there were some discourse of shaitan. So it all happened in the personal world. There are some thing going on against the spirituality, and then that personal world you see that few of the jealousy component is also there when somebody progress in the spirituality. And Lord is gracious and He pleased, indeed He is all knowing and all wise. So this interpretation is mentioned in ayat number 100, and the dream is in ayat number 4. So Hazrat Yusuf was entrusted Imam of his time, and he received Imamat from his father Yaqub in a usual way and in the usual. But then um, there are some time where the Imamat like goes before the time. So after the Yusuf, after Yaqub, Yusuf will be Imam after Yaqub's death, like physical death. But the Imamat transferred while Yaqub was also the Imam. So that transfer or that story or that chapter of Imamat is not a usual one chapter. So that chapter of Imamat is also in the story of Hazrat Yusuf. So it happens sometimes that where the living Imam is there and the Imamat may go and may transfer to the son earlier than the expected time. So that had happened, and that was basically a chapter of the Imamat, because Imamat has a different kinds of chapter. So this is one chapter which is mentioned in Quran, and for our knowledge, we need to understand that there are different ways Imamat is flourished, and Imamat has a different dimension. So this is one dimension, that sometimes Imamat goes from father to the son earlier than the usual time. So Yusuf enthroned the spiritual parents in the throne of his personal world, and both of them, like parent, mother, and father, and other Hududin. So all 11 brothers are from the Hududin. So they all prostrated him once he sat on the throne. So when he sat on the throne, and in the last line it says that 11 Hujjat, the previous Imam and the Bab, begin to obey him. So prostration means that now the Noor has transferred into Yusuf. So the obedience or the prostration is now gone to Yusuf, and all Hududdin, including Bab and Imam, will obey him just for um, giving the importance of the Arsh. So it sometimes happens to give the importance to that person who has reached up to the level of throne for some point in time, to give that perfect man or give that Arif a message that now you see you are on the throne, and we all will prostrate you, to give that importance and to achieve that level, that okay, now you are the one who is Lord. Maybe for, maybe in the personal world, not in this physical world, not, there is no announcement there, there is nothing, but in the personal world a person becomes the Lord, and all other will prostrate. So to give that essence that you can now annihilate, or you are now annihilated in Allah, and everybody else will prostrate you, just to give that experience, not physically, but it is in the personal world. I'm continually saying that this is in the personal world, this is the Yusuf own experience, and anyone who progress can get that experience of going into and reaching to the level of the throne. Now there is another dream, which is dream in the prison. So once when this Zulekha story, and then when Zulekha blamed Yusuf that he seduces Zuleika, he was then sent to the prison. Though it was not Yusuf's fault, but he was sent to the prison. And there are few ayats from ayat number 36 to 41. These are the ayat, and then I'll explain the interpretation, the tabi. So there were two other people or two other person or youth were also imprisoned along with him, and Yusuf continued to do ibadat, continued to do like spiritual discussion, and giving the knowledge in the prison also. So people in the prison and the two of the youth becomes like a kind of friends with him, and they were listening to Yusuf. So one of them said that I dreamt that I was pressing grapes, and the other dreamt that I was carrying bread on my head and the birds were pecking it. So that means that there were two people, two youth, they were imprisoned with Yusuf, and they dreamt and they said that, can you interpret this dream for us before the food arrives? We know that you are knowledgeable and you are very religious person. So Yusuf said that I follow the faith of my father of Ibrahim and Ishaq and Yaqub, and we cannot associate anyone with God. This is among God's favor to us and to all mankind, but most men are not grateful. So after, like, between the interpretation, he also has guided these people that okay, we have to obey Ibrahim and the progeny of Ibrahim. And now this is the interpretation of that dream, that one fellow prison who dreamt that was pressing grapes. He said that you will be freed from the prison and you will serve wine to your master or to king, and the other will be crucified, so other will be hanged. So hanged, and the bird will peck at its brain. So he said the two people that okay, you will be freed and then you will serve as a serve wine in the king's palace, and the other for other he said that you will be crucified. So this interpretation is mentioned in these ayat 36 to 41. But the Tawil, oh, sorry, it's okay. So Tawil, I have not mentioned Tawil here. So Tawil of these two dreams in the personal world is that one of our soul, we need to crucify that. The soul, which is Nafse Amara, it is important that we crucified those soul to get the other soul, which is I, freed, and then we go and serve the master who is the Imam of the time. So this is one of the interpretation, but Yusuf gave this interpretation in this Qurani ayat. Then it is connected with the dream of the king. These are the ayats 43 to 50. At that time, king of Egypt, so he saw a dream, and he said to his members or those who are in the palace, he said that I saw 7 fat cows in a dream and being gulped or eaten by 7 lean cows, and 7 years of corn that were green and 7 other that were seared or dried. Tell me the significance of my dream. So now king saw this dream and he was asking everyone that what is the significance or the interpretation of this dream. And all the members of the palace were saying that this is nothing, this is just a confused dream and we don't know the interpretation. But the servant who was the prison mate, and he was actually being released, and remember Yusuf that there is a person who was able to give the interpretation of the dream. So now let me go and ask Yusuf that please tell us the interpretation of this dream. So after coming to the prison, he that servant said that, oh Yusuf, the truth will tell us the meaning of 7 fat cows being digested by 7 lean ones and 7 green ears of corn and 7 dried corn. and then I'll go back to my people and my king and tell the interpretation. So Yusuf said that there will be the 7 years of the normal year where the reaping and everything will be very you will be flourished, but there will be the 7 years of hardship and a kehet. So that hardship, the crops will be dried and there will be no crops. So everywhere there will be no food and there will be the hardship. So he suggested in the dream, like it says that if you save the corn or the wheat, unripe wheat, and then save it, and when the 7 year of hardship comes, then you can sow that corn or sow that wheat, and then that hardship you will be able to move towards, and then you take all the stored food and then eat within your kingdom. So that is the interpretation. Now the Tawili interpretation is that the cow is basically human soul, and when human soul eats and drink like nafsi amara at the time of comfortable time, we eat, we drink, we do a lot of things and do not think about our spiritual enlightenment. Then these were the years of flourishing years or comfortable years, abundance where it can be passed very comfortably. But then there will be a time come where there will be a severe famine, or a later on there is the hardship. These hardship were the hardship of spiritual experience. And Yusuf uh, interpret that the king, which is the king of Egypt, actually it is for the king of Egypt that the king who will become spiritually, he who will get the spiritual kingdom may get into the hardship of spirituality after passing his or her life very comfortably. So once you are comfortable in the life, but then later on, uh, spirituality has always the hardship and the trials. So what we can do, that during the comfortable life and during the life of easiness, we can get more knowledge, we can get prepared ourselves, that if we go through this spiritual resurrection or spiritual hardship, we will be able to cope with that spiritual hardship. Otherwise it will be very difficult for any person to go without preparing ourselves. So these 7 years where we pass our life very comfortably, we need to prepare ourselves spiritually, intellectually, with knowledge and ibadat. So when the spirituality come, or when any spiritual experience occur to ourselves, we are able to cope with it and we are able to survive. Otherwise, there may be a few instances where people were unable to survive or were unable to deal with that spirituality, and then there were many difficulty or difficult situation arises. So that's where 7 years of flourishment and 7 years of hardship is about the spirituality of the person who wanted to become the spiritual king. So then later on, naturally the stories goes, if you read, I'm not going into the detail because I think time is also going up. So later on what happens, after listening to this interpretation, king was very happy, and then he set him free, and then he called him in his palace, and he said that you become my finance minister, and then see where all of the other cities are in Kehet or famine, then Egypt will be flourished, and that's how he became the finance minister. And his 11 brothers who were in Canaan, um, where there was kehet and there was hardship, they went to Yusuf for taking the food. And when they were taking the food, Yusuf actually recognized the 11 brother and specifically Benjamin, and then he sent the message to the father, and the father actually said that please bring Yusuf to me because I am crying for his love. And um, and then Yusuf sent his shirt to Yaqub. Then after father cried a lot, that he becomes blind. So this is just a physical story that with the love of Yusuf, he was so much so sad and so depressed, and he was crying all the time. And Yusuf came to know that my father is actually missing me a lot. So he gave the shirt to his brother and said that, okay, give this shirt and put it on his face, so then he will get his eyesight. So that is the physical story. But the shirt from the Egypt where Yusuf sent for his father in Canaan was not made of any physical or worldly cloth, but this is Jusai Ibdaya. And Jusai Ibdaya is the astral body, and it is not a physical body, it is a Jism Latif, Jusai Ibdaya, and it is a spiritual, in fact, spiritual in the intellectual body, and that is basically has gone to Hazrat Yaqub. And brother of Yusuf in Tawil is Hududdin, who worked in the astral particles in the personality of Hazrat Yusuf, and they actually brings and help in developing that shirt. And that's why Hazrat Yusuf told his brother, who are Hududdin, that take this shirt and cast it on my father's face, he will become a seer again, or he'll gain the eyesight. So no worldly shirt is so miraculous that by it, and I've taken this from Coolness of Eyes for Allama Nasiruddin's book, that eyes may gain sight which they had lost, except a shirt which is made by divine hand, and in which the divine miracles of be in like be in spoon. So it is like a miraculous shirt, a Jusai Ibdaya, and it gives the light and gives the spirituality. And this is the fountainhead of all the miracles. And the story of this shirt is hidden in other Tawili secrets too, like all spiritual upliftment. When they go to the level of spirituality, higher and higher level, a shirt is given, or a Jusai Ibdaya is given to the person, or a perfect man, or a Arif. And then that shirt is basically Jism Latif. And Jism Latif, we can talk the actually characteristics of Jism Latif later, but this is a full of miraculous shirt where all the miracles are confined, and all the miracles are in Jism Latif. So, in conclusion, Hazrat Yusuf was a prophet and an imam, and after some spiritual journey, he was able to make a lot of tawil. This was the story of Yusuf's personal world, personal journey. He was given the khilafat at the time, and then when he became the Khalifa, he sat on the throne. The whole particles which is in the personal world prostrated and obeyed, and he was given Yusai Ibdaya, which is free of pre-eternal and post-eternal miracles, and the miracle of Kun Fayakun. And he received this subtle body like all other Arifs and all other Imam and the Prophet received a subtle body or a Jismillah. So thank you. Because we do not have much time that we go one by one, but if we read that story, it's very interesting. And after now hearing some of the explanation which is made by Allama Sahib and other books, we'll able to understand more the story of Hazrat Yusuf as a personal world of the Yusuf and the spiritual progress.
Subhanallah, Dr. Saiba and Yasin Saiba. Friends, if you have any question, please share in the chat. So we have a couple of questions received. How is Yusuf imprisonment was his spiritual resurrection? Please explain.
In the spirituality, when there is a in the spiritual hardship, there are some physical hardship attached to that spiritual hardship. Like if I say Allama Sahib went to China and then he was also imprisoned without any mistake. So he was just imprisoned because he has gone from Pakistan to China, and then there was some confusion. And in the prison, he sees a lot of miracles. So it may happen that Yusuf was imprisoned so that he can gain some spiritual ladders cross in the prison, or it may be imprisoned in his personal world where he is not able to see the external world like he sees external world in the normal circumstances. So this is basically the symbol of hardship.
Ji, Yasmin Saiba, if you want to add something.
Preparation for spiritual resurrection and all sorts of hardships are endured. As the example of Allama Sahib, he also was in prison, physical prison, but also the miracles are happening in the personal world, right? Spirituality is really, really difficult. There are certain forceful conditions imposed. It's imposed hardship for the sake of special spiritual experiences. In the example of Allama Sahib, he experienced spiritual fragrance when he was denied all sorts of physical food. We can reflect more upon it and share insights. That's the gist of being imprisoned.
We have another question. Does the 7 year of hardship connected to 7 cycle of creation too?
It could be, I have not read, but it could be because 7 years means said lot, 7 years that passed very easily. And 7 years also means that 7 cycle, you get the recognition of all 7 natics in the spirituality. So it may be like 7 year of hardship where, as Yasmin said, that the spiritual hardship is imposed. So experiences of all 7 natik are imposed, and Arif goes through all the experiences of all 7 natiks. Uh, Not even goes through, but he becomes Adam, he becomes Nuh, he becomes Ibrahim. So that is not very easy to becoming Adam and becoming Ibrahim. It is very hard, and there is like lot of imposed hardship happening there. So it could be that 7 natics experiences one can go through.
We have another question. What is the role of Zulekha, and does she become a follower of Hazrat Yusuf or his spouse?
A story of Zuleika is not discussed in books very much, but what I understand from Allama Said's explanation that Zuleika, because you know Hududdin at the time of Natik, Hududdin has a very systematic arrangement, and so Zuleika was wife of Aziz-e Misr, and Aziz-e Misr was Imam-e Mustaqar, and Zulekha was Hujjat of the Imam-e Mustaqar. So Hujjat of the Imam-e Mustaqar has to attach with Imam-e Mustaqar only. That Hujjat cannot go to Imam-e Mustafa. So that was the arrangement in the previous, where there was little certain boundaries, where if you are taking ilm with one part of Dai or a Hujjat, you will not go to other and get ilm from there. So that arrangement actually was there at the time of Yusuf, and Zulaikha was Hujjat of Imam Mustaqar. So she has to take ilm or be with Imam Mustaqar only as a wife. But here, when he sees the beauty of Yusuf, which is spiritual beauty of Hazrat Yusuf or Imam Mastoda, and at that time, when she realized that Imam Mastoda beauty and she wanted to go to Imam Mastauda's beauty. That was not spiritually legal. Like I can state that word, legal means that was not allowed uh, in the context of Dore Satar. So in that period, this was not allowed. But now in Dore Kashf, it's all monorality and all are merged in the Imam of the time. All ranks are merged in the Imam of the time. There is no such hierarchy, physical hierarchy. There may be spiritual and intellectual hierarchy, but there is no physical hierarchy right now. But at that period, there were some physical hierarchy. There were known Imam Mustaqar, known Imam Masouda, known Dais, known Hujjat, and then there are some restrictions also. So if anyone crossed that restriction, then it matters. So that was that interpretation I know. I've cleared this because this is like many people question this, and then they're saying that then she was not Muslim and she's tried to seduce Yusuf. So these all are physical stories, but actually is that she has seen beauty of Imam Mastauda and she wants to get into that beauty.
We have another questions. Friends asking, please explain Imam Mustakar and Imam Mustauda.
I just want to elaborate that there are two Imam Mustaqar and Imam Mastauda. The permanent Imam is always there. Imam Mastauda is physically identified or may not be identified sometimes and may not be announced. So they work in a silence and they also work in the spiritual progress of Momin, and they have a lot of work to do in the whole imamat. So imamat is a huge kind of a book and has many chapters. So one chapter is a type of imam like Imam Mukim, Imam Mustauda, Imam Mustakar. So Mustakar is a permanent imam, always there, always physically there, and always known to the people. Imam Mustauda, there may be there physically, may not be um, announced title. So, and why it is so Imam Mustaqar and Imam Mustada? Because in our own personality, we have two eyes. One is a permanent with the Imam of the time, which is the Mustaqar means Qarar, it's always there. And other eye is in ourself. So which the like if we see the rays, one is connected to the sun and other is connected to the earth. So the portion which is connected, the soul or the portion which is connected to us is Mastauda, and the portion which is connected to the sun or the Noor is Mustaqar. So it's always there. Mustauda may be physically announced, may not be announced, and but the role in the spirituality is similar. There are a lot of other explanation of Imam Mustauda and Mustaqar as well.
We have another question. Friends asking, what is the tawil of women cutting their fingers when they saw Hazrat Yusuf?
It's the beauty of Hazrat Yusuf's ta'wil.
Cutting with the knife, as Yasmin also explained, that it is the Isme Azam, using of Isme Azam to see the Imam's beauty. So that could be one explanation.
There's one question in the chat, but I think it's not related to the topic, but if you'd like to answer. Friends asking, can a departed soul meet their family members who have departed before that soul and in the spiritual world? Can these souls meet each other anytime in the spiritual world, regardless of their levels in the spiritual world?
So in paradise, all our wishes are granted, yeah? And waladaina mazid, and much more we cannot even imagine. So yes, of course, paradise, everything is possible. So it gives us hope and it gives us so much happiness of how beautiful Ismailism is.
Yeah, so it happens because regardless of the spiritual rank also, because if we believe that our soul, we come from Imam and will go in the Imam of the time, so everyone will merge, so definitely it is possible.
Dr. Saiba and Yasin Saiba, we don't have any questions. If you like, we can end the session here.
Yes, we can end the session here. Thank you very much. I appreciate if we all read maybe translation of Surah Yusuf, that will help us understand more about the story of Yusuf. So that will be definitely very helpful, um, and then internalize the personal world and spiritual world experiences.
Yeah,
Thank you, Dr. Saiba. Here, go
yeah,
ahead, Kyle.
yeah, I had a question. Sorry, it's coming a little bit late, but I was wondering if you could speak a little bit about um, the reality or significance of Hazrat Yusuf's parents prostrating to him when he put them on the throne, and they're prostrating to him, especially because of this whole idea that prostration is only to Allah. But now this is the second time we've seen in the Quranic stories, with Hazrat Adam being the first person or place that was prostrated to, and now here you have another example of prophets prostrating to each other in the Quran, and how what that would mean, and how perhaps other Muslims might have taken this, or how they can object to this idea of that prostration, that should only be towards Allah. So maybe if you could just speak a little bit about that, which I find to be an interesting part of the story itself.
Thank you, Kayalali. Others object to it. That's because the idea of monorealism may not be relevant to them. But in terms of Hazrat Yusuf, because he completed his spirituality and the nur was transferred, and the sun and the moon, so we know that the universal intellect and the universal soul, they are the parents. So in his personal world, they subjugated themselves and they prostrated to Hazrat Yusuf because he now was the perfect man.
Yeah, I think because we believe in Tawil, and when anyone reaches to that place, this is jubilation for that person and celebration that okay, this person has now reached to that level, and all others will prostrate, including Imam of the time, including Prophet of the time. So to get that understanding, or to get that experience, as well as assure them that now you become at the level of king. So actually monoreality, but when we see that you are Allah itself, like it's nobody else. So that is the teaching of monoreality, where we see ourselves that okay, everything lies in our personal world. So this is basically naturally story of personal world, and in the personal world, we reached up to that level, and in the personal world, all the particles, including everybody's particle, Hududdin and Imam, they prostrate in the personal world. So it's not something physically we have somebody has prostrated, but it's the in the personal world. So if we attached meaning to the personal world, it will become more clearer, and then we can explain other people as well. But Kayalali, you can also add to what you have read about this.
Yeah, no, I was actually just focusing on this point just to make that, it's interesting because we normally hear this as a criticism, this idea that, prostration is only to Allah and worship is only to Allah, and people think they know what shirk means. But it's interesting that we have now, two examples where something normally, the normal default, we would have thought that this will be then, if there's an example of prostration to anyone other than Allah, then it'll be followed by some sort of reprimandation, for us to learn. But we don't see that. In fact, we see it being praised, or being set as the example. It's interesting. I think in one footnote of I don't know if it was Madhudi's explanation, but someone had said that this was okay at that time because this was prior to the time of Prophet Muhammad, and Allah had not yet taught people that you don't prostrate to others, which is so funny to me because here you have the example for Muslims, right? this is not a book they found from before that they suddenly found. This is being revealed in real time by the Prophet to Muslims about other prophets even, and showing that how they prostrated. But the explanation was that this was a different time period, and I guess it was allowed back then, which is funny, because the haqa'iq never changes, right? The asul of the din doesn't change. So it'd be strange to say that prostration was okay and approved, but then later on it was forbidden. So I just think that's an interesting example to know about that. The other thing which I think is interesting to note about this in connection with this story is that, so in Wajadin, Nasir Khusro mentions that this whole idea of the dream at the beginning, when it said that he had the dream that the 11 stars and the sun and the moon was prostrating to him. So Nasir Khusro said that his father, which was Hazrat Yaqub, wanted to show Hazrat Yusuf through imagination, and the word there is khayal, which we can identify with because that's an important terminology for us today as well. But through the khayal, through the imagination, or through the imaginal faculty, through the power of the khayal, he wanted to show him this event of the sun and the moon and the stars prostrating to him. So it wasn't necessarily a dream as such, but it was more to do with a spiritual vision that came through his faculty of khayal. What I find interesting is that at the beginning, this is what happened, and then later on, we see that the result of it, or the fulfillment, was that Hazrat, the recognition that who Hazrat Yusuf was, as that being that he was the Imam at that time, the Imam Mustawda, and now his ascension to the throne of Imamat, which could say that, in a certain sense, you could say that that vision was like a foreshadowing or a symbolic transfer or a sharing of that light of Imamat. When you think about the sun, the moon, the stars, all that light was, the indication is that that light is going to be going towards Hazrat Yusuf. And that part I find fascinating, because it means that, taking Nasir Khusro's explanation that it was through khayal that this experience with the light of Imamat was shared, or the vision or the experience of it, it makes it a little bit more, I think, exciting for us to know that when we sit in YpK, what are we doing? Because we always say that we're looking for the experience of being touched by that light. And here we have the Quranic example per Nasir Khusro, that through the khayal, the Imam of that time was showing his son how the light is being transferred. Now, I'm not saying that in Baitul Khayal that we would expect that the light will be transferred as such into us, or that there'll be any sort of authority of Imamat, but the very experience of what it means to say that that light will be shared, you could say, or reached. Because when there's a transfer, it doesn't leave one place or the other, and there doesn't have to be any authority. But essentially the paradigm is the same, right? The parallel is the same, because it's the same one straight path. So that was just what I found. That's the part of the story I think that, for me at least, I love that part of the story.
True. Like, there are very, very many dimensions, and definitely that's what you said. It's very true, and it's very amazing.
We have a couple of questions. One more question in the chat, if you would like to answer.
Sure.
We have could prostration also mean recognition or acknowledgement of the level of spiritual achievement of Hazrat Yusuf?
Like, prostration basically means obedience. So recognition, acknowledgement, all comes under obedience. So it's a part of recognition and acknowledgement is a part of obedience. If it is a part of obedience, then definitely yes. But the true meaning of prostration means that truly obedience. So definitely without recognition, without acknowledging the status, it is very difficult to prostrate. May physically prostrate, but they are not obedient. So that means that prostration is physically done, but inner self is not prostrating.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Saiba. Thank you, Yasmin Saiba. Thank you, friends, for joining today's session. Yali Madad.